Welcome to the Ask a Cycling Coach podcast presented by TrainerRoad. Today, we're going to talk, maybe we'll kind of guesstimate about pro FTPs. We're going to talk about how to raise your FTP most effectively. We've got a fantastic question on that. We got the questions that you submitted at trainerroad.com/podcast. And before we get into those, I have to clarify something because I made a mistake on the previous episode. It's been a while since Chad, Ivy, or I guess Chad, Hannah, and I raced USAC road races last year. I missed this change. I didn't know about it. But anyways, I messed up on Cat 5. I'm going to clarify it. We got a correction, many corrections in through the question submission area, and I'm going to read it out. So this is correction for episode 409. I'm sure someone else has chimed in, but your information regarding the Cat 5, Cat 10 race minimum is outdated. Cat 5s, or as they're now known, novices, can declare themselves Cat 4 at any time. The 10 race minimum is no longer a requirement. However, 10 points earned in a 12-month period will force a mandatory upgrade to Cat 4. If you go into, there's a link that we'll post in the description of this episode on YouTube and everything else, where USAC has really helpful guidelines on this and then also has like some good visualizations that explain the road categories. It's much easier than it used to be. It's quite helpful to understand it. So they're now novices, not Cat 5. And it's totally different. You don't have to do the 10 races. So I wonder what sort of, if that's creating any chaos, you know?
Did you in this last episode talk about the point of Cat 5 then category? Because, if you can just declare yourself a Cat 4 at any time, what is really the purpose serving to have Cat 5?
Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy.
Since I am the one closest to being a Cat 5, or when I was, there are people who are not comfortable in a group, and then people who are extremely comfortable in a group. And when you mix those two people together, that goes really fast and really tight, and it can freak people out. And in my mind, what this does is the people who are not comfortable in racing in a group and haven't done much at all can be in Cat 5 until they feel comfortable with it. And then the people who have been doing group rides, been really close, maybe done some races that are not USAC sanctioned, they can go to 4 right away and not have to ride with people in this kind of more squirrely race. But you're right, there will be people who immediately jump in and go, I'm not a Cat 5. I've ridden my bike. I've commuted for years. And then they get into it and it could be a bad thing. But that's no worse than you being in with all of them, a whole peloton of the people, and hopefully maybe they'll get dropped.
That's a great point, Nate. It's two different bad situations. There's this assumption, I think, that is kind of you want the people that are down below you to stay below you and to not come up, and you want them to pass through the same suffering you did, right? In order to go through the whole process. But that doesn't necessarily make more dangerous conditions. It's all complicated, So
I think it's better. John, I think did you do it with me? Somebody did it with me, like a practice race in Northern California where there was coaches and stuff. But there was a whole group of people who were pretty squirrely, who weren't comfortable right in a group. And there are a few people that are really good. But the whole vibe was a lot more about safety and space and less aggression. And everyone was like, hey, I'm not comfortable, so there's not much aggression. And I imagine that's what this Cat 5 novice should be like.
Yeah. I honestly like the mandatory or the voluntary upgrade from moving up there. I think it does probably make things on the whole safer. You know what I mean? Maybe Cat 4 has a bit of craziness inserted into it that wasn't there before. Who knows?
No, it's already there.
You can't chaos. It's already chaos.
Yes. And honestly, the pro race is a lot like a P12 race for me is a lot scarier with people being a lot more aggressive and doing things that have high consequences than the Cat 5 when I was there.
They're doing things with the assumption that you know how to also do them and how to react to them.
Well, it's more like, there's a corner and they purposely cut you off, or they see your wheel and they want to get you out, or they push you with their elbow. And they think you're going to react to them, but still you don't see those moves in the lower ranks. And for me, I was more comfortable in the lower ranks. I felt safer than in the P12 because you're going 30 and people are pushing you, and it's just scary.
Yeah, Chad, that's your experience too. You've raced at the P12 level for years. It's aggressive up at the top.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, pretty much. It was Masters 1, 2, 3, and then we would do P12s as an add-on just to get more, basically motor pacing is what it equated to. And in that case, I wasn't really in the mix, the aggressive end of the mix. I was more tucked in, trying to just hang on. Mm-hmm. So, but with the Masters 1, 2, 3, this is just older fellas doing the same thing. So it got plenty fast and it got dicey and aggressive. But at no point was I uncomfortable, except for maybe on fast downhill descents in groups. I never understood that when it wouldn't string out and people would say bunched up at 40, 50 miles per hour. That definitely freaked me out.
The safest group I've ridden
For
with,
those that can't see, Nate's like shaking his head. No.
the safest group I've ridden with is a Masters 1-2 or like 1-2-3. That like 35 plus. It probably gets even safer 45 and 55, but it was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think your what's the term? Your aversion, your
Risk averse.
aversion.
that's it. You become less and less so, or more and more so. I've never understood that term, to be honest.
Yeah, you don't take as many risks. Where you're right. There's a 20-year-old trying to get to Cat 1 so that they can launch their career, and
Versus a 40-year-old who wants to get home to his 2 kids. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's been riding for 25 years.
Yeah.
I'm pretty comfortable with aggressive riding. Like if somebody throws an elbow
You
into
are.
me, hits me, bumps me, anything else like that, it's fine. But and in like
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I don't do it to other people. I don't want to
no,
do that.
well,
but if
yeah,
people
but-
do it to me, whatever, I feel comfortable with that. When I got to Tulsa Tough, that was a totally different environment. And I was not in the P1-2 race. I was in the 1-2 race. So maybe it was just like really scrappy folks that like wanted to be in the P1-2 race or something, but it was so extremely dangerous. And like the lack of respect across the board was there, like 100%. And that turned me off from that. And I don't know if it was just that race, right? Because it wouldn't be fair to me to assume that like all racing at that level is that way all across the board. But it was, and maybe Ivy can provide some insight on this, but that was truly like, I mean, I ended up crashing because of the chaos that was unfolding in the race, created a crash that I couldn't avoid. But and I've never crashed, and I've crashed in one other road race in my entire life from that, and that was just from somebody taking me out intentionally. So yeah, that was different. That was pretty darn scary. I didn't want any part of that after that. So
Yeah, it definitely feels like, in my experience, the bigger the race or the more credibility there would be to get a result there, the more riding you see like that.
yeah.
When John too, when I said like I wouldn't do that to John. So when somebody pushes me, I'm timid and I just move, right? And that sometimes could be very dangerous because I'm getting pushed off my line and that pushes other people off, and it could be a cascade effect. I've seen John, when people push John, and I think this is in the certain situations where it's really tight, John puts his elbow back and is like, no, you're not pushing me into this person.
Yeah.
And then, I think John's just defending himself so he doesn't go down, and people should we should make this clear. You're not supposed to push each other in road races
Yes.
or mountain bike races or
and stay
crits.
on the bars. You aren't hitting
Yes, exactly.
people.
You're not
you don't
elbowing
take people's
people.
lines by pushing them or by chopping their wheel. Like,
Yeah.
you don't do that. You shouldn't do that.
Yes, it happens, but it's not in the rules. Like it is.
Yeah. And if somebody's doing that to you, you can own your space. And that's like what Nate's talking about there is I'm not pushing them back and trying to get an equal and opposite reaction or anything else like that. I'm just trying to make sure that my space is held. So then everybody behind me and to the side of me, we don't like, I don't make it so that they go to the hospital. Instead, they like, we all finish the race, you know?
And John also, John yells at them right away. And I think that does a lot of pushback. A lot of people know John too, but he like puts his elbow up and he's like, what the darn heck are you doing?
Those words precisely.
Well, yeah, because he's, John's Mormon, so it is literally like that. Go kick
I
rocks.
just want to go
And,
home and like not go
yeah.
to the hospital after a race. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to miss work and I don't want to do that stuff. And if we all step back, we're in a bike race and none of us are getting paid, and it's probably not worth doing scary stuff. It's actually certainly not worth doing scary
Just wait
stuff.
for Masters, everyone, and then it's way safer and nicer.
I think so.
Yeah. Ivy, do you have any thoughts to add to that? I don't want to.
I think I just take issue with riders that are like, well, this is how people in Europe race. This is how European pros race. Like, and I was talking to some riders, some women that are new to the 1-2 ranks and did Valley of the Sun this year, which is a US stage race in Arizona. And it's not super big anymore, but it's pretty highly attended. A lot of people are in Arizona and, want to do an early season race. And so some of these younger riders were like, yeah, it was crazy to be in the Pro 1-2 field and like start trying to get to used to like riders putting their hands on you and stuff and this and that. And I'm like, whoa, no. Like, that's not the standard expectation. And also that's really weird for a women's field of like 20 riders. There's like no reason in huge American roads where there are like 5 lanes. Like there's no reason where there's a situation that's tight enough that like you should need to push people around in that way or take your hands off your bars. Like that is not something riders in Europe do regularly in normal circumstances, and especially not like in a small field like that. Totally unnecessary.
I've seen circumstances where, particularly actually in the masters field, like with those riders where their hands will come off the bars, and what they'll do is when they're coming up on somebody, they might just gently like place their hand on somebody's back, like, and just so then they know they're there or something. If they for some reason aren't able to like vocalize, and it's not a push, it's like, hey, I'm here, it's okay. Like you see,
what I do also too, if I need to turn around and look behind me for some reason and I'm in a field, like if a team car is honking and you want to like turn around and see if it's yours, and if they're trying to get you to come back or something, if you need to turn around and look behind you, I will put my hand on the shoulder of the rider next to me while I turn around, because while you turn, you tend to swerve. So it kind of like stabilizes you from deviating in your line. That's like a acceptable time to put your hands on someone, but not like to move them out of the way for something.
Yeah.
I just wear a mirror on my helmet.
Yes.
Yeah. we got into peak chaos, and after this we'll end with it. Peak chaos at Tulsa Tough was when I saw a person, they took their hand off their bars and they took it to a new level. They took their hand off the bars and they just full on like with their hand, open hand, punched the hood of the rider next to them. Like they were bumping each other and getting angry, and just punched it, and the dude just went down, probably took out another like 15 people right behind him. And
in your race?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was chaos. It was really bad. So I don't know. Message us and let us know if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave it in comments. Have you raced high level races and were they like that? And if so, like, how do you recommend reacting? Maybe we can help some folks feeling like they're racing aggressive stuff. Speaking of aggressive races, but in a very different tone, Cape Epic, it finished. It was awesome. We had that special episode with our employees, and I want to give them congratulations. Tiffany and Haley, they finished 6th, which is amazing.
Our employees.
Yeah.
You'll talk to them when you email support, which is crazy.
Yeah. Keegan, and then who's our TrainerRoad employee, and then Arno, he's not the employee, but they're this duo that race all these races. They finished 16th in the pro men, hugely impressive. Rousseau and HB, they ended up finishing the race, which is incredible. I think that they were somewhere around 30th OA in the UCI men, which after with all the things they've been through, both of them coming into this race, it was questionable if they'd even be able to finish, and it was super impressive to see. So congrats. Obviously, congrats to Sophia for getting 3rd with Katerina, and Keegan and Lachlan. They just kept getting stronger. I think if the race was 6 weeks, they would have won, just because they're two cockroaches. You can't kill them. They're really tough to kill. So it's pretty great.
You should get a tattoo like that.
I know, right? Yeah. Victor's question. What is the biggest difference Ivy has noticed between riding a steel bike and a carbon bike now that she's on a Ventum this year? As of course, as we've mentioned before, Ventum bikes Ivy at Drain. Also, does Ivy use or have a group set sponsor, or will she choose her own? If so, what will she use?
Okay. So first, Squid Cross frames are aluminum. I have raced steel off-road bikes in the past with Speedwagon when I raced for them, but the Squid Cross frame is aluminum, so I'm not going from steel to carbon. I'm going from aluminum to carbon. But this is the first time with the Ventum that I've ridden a carbon bike off-road, and I do feel some differences. And I had some concerns riding a carbon off-road bike for the first time. People choose steel bikes for more comfort and like vibration dampening on rough terrain. And so I was worried that riding a gravel bike, it was going to get rattled and feel super bouncy. And it wasn't like that at all. I'm not really sure where that assumption comes from. Maybe like super early days of carbon off-road bikes. Maybe the technology has just come far enough that that's not really something that is part of riding gravel or carbon off-road bikes anymore. But the biggest difference I feel is in the stiffness and responsiveness in handling. And it almost got me in trouble a couple times riding like BWR on single track. Was one of my first times really riding it off-road. And, you're used to kind of having to manhandle something through a feature or a really tight turn. And it almost turns or steers more quickly than you would expect, or than with a less stiff responsive bike. And so I got a little rowdy a couple times, but there are differences. It's really stiff. It's really responsive, but really that doesn't mean that steel or aluminum bikes are bad. Carbon's just great.
Yeah. Is it still comfy, even though it's stiff and responsive?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that's the main concern, right?
Totally. Yeah. I didn't really feel that, like when you ride a hardtail mountain bike and like your back hurts after riding it for a long time. And so I was worried that's kind of what I would feel, but I didn't feel a big comfort difference between aluminum and steel on this bike at all. So I was surprised by that and stoked about it.
I think the Flow guys said that it was just a couple, like 2 PSI or something, could make the difference for all the flexion you would get in a frame in your tires.
Right.
Or was it 2 or 5? It was something very, very small, could be worth all of that. So I could see why, even if it is a lot stiffer, it's that very minimum amount. And you're right, like it's crazy how they lay up the carbon where it flexes one way, but it's stiff the other way. I don't understand how they do that, but they want a little bit of flex up and down, but not too much flex up and down, and be really stiff from side to side. Is that right? Got that right? Yeah.
But it like intentionally stiff in specific ways. It's like a really complex thing, and I'm glad that there are smart people like rocket scientists that do this stuff for us.
Or they say it so they can sell us $14,000 bikes.
There we go. We bought it.
Just super easy.
Yeah.
But on the note of the tires, like I wonder if also having gravel specific like wheels and tires also now versus just ripping around on my 32C cross tires, like wonder if that makes a difference also, Oh
yeah.
What with tire or do you run?
I was running 40s, IRC Boken, so they're like a file tread with a heavy bite on the side, and I got to run them super low. Felt great.
Do you like those?
Yeah, I love those.
You continue to race with them?
Oh yeah, totally. And those are my
Go ahead.
Oh, those are my when I race cross, those are my like file tread fast tires too, just in a narrower width in 32s.
How are they
your personal choice?
Sorry.
What's that, Chad?
Do you choose those, Ivy, or are you sponsored?
I work with them, but okay. I would choose them. And the same goes for Victor asked if I have a group set sponsor. I do have a relationship with SRAM too, but I would choose them also if I didn't. Yeah.
Especially now, like I'm sorry if this is like feels like
you can stand on your derailleur. What is it?
Yeah. Since the new SRAM group set just came out last week, my goodness, it's like a level so high above. It's pretty darn sweet. So,
can we talk? Want to talk about it or not?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool. Nate, I'm not sure if you know about it.
I don't have it
yet.
I don't. But we can talk about it.
I don't know anything about it.
They call it a transmission, and that's definitely seems like a marketing move. SRAM's very effective at marketing, very good. But the narrow wide profile on a chainring, Nate? They have the narrow wide profile on your cassette now as well. And what it does is the derailleur is constantly keeping track. It knows the exact chain length that you have. So it never shifts it at the wrong time. And you can shift as hard, and it actually shifts better under load than it does not under load. And the hardest you can pedal, like for example, Payson said he did a 10-second or 12-second 1500 watt sprint. In that sprint, I think he said he shifted 5 times. And he said it was haphazardly just tapping the shifter while he's doing that 1500 watt sprint. And he never even heard the chain move. He never even felt it pop. It was just smoothly moving through. So it's pretty cool. And then they got rid of derailleur hangers. So now what it does is it mounts to the axle on the back. And when it does that, it mounts on the outside and outside and inside of the axle. So the derailleur is extremely stiff. And since it's really stiff, shifting under load with the narrow wide teeth, it doesn't flex, so you don't get that poppy, inconsistent shifting. It's just perfectly stiff and works incredibly well.
What happens if you crash, though? Because derailleur hangers are there they can bend, so you don't have to replace your bike or the derailleur. Yeah.
So this is why everyone is standing on, this feels like an ad for SRAM. I'm sorry, everybody. But as everyone is jumping up and down on the derailleur to show that the derailleur won't bend. Like people can, so it's designed to take, I think it's like 600 kilos of force placed on it and still be okay.
I could do that.
So you do crash hard. And but then the best part is the pieces of the derailleur are replaceable if anything was to happen to it. But then it's mounted all to the system of your rear axle. So everyone thinks that like, well, what's going to happen to your frame? But it's mounted to the rear axle, and it's this really strong, stable system there. It doesn't pass the force onto your frame. It passes it into the axle, and the axle is this really strong structure that's sandwiched. It's really clever. So
what happens when you take your axle off? I'm sorry, it
stays on there. It's mounted to your frame because it takes the place of your derailleur hanger. So
okay,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'll
it's a
look
big
at some
change.
stuff.
Yeah.
This is only for mountain, right?
Right now, but talk about a huge opportunity for road. Imagine if like you would never have to ease off in a sprint and you would never have to worry about something popping off.
Yeah. Imagine if I didn't have to worry about any chains popping off in the middle of the sprint. Those are really scary, and those change your life of not wanting to.
Check out our sprinting. How to sprint faster, I believe it is. Or gosh, Sprinting 101. I'm blanking on the name, but check out our YouTube channel. We'll link to it below. A video where you can watch Nate. That terrified me. Nate almost, that was scary.
It terrified you? Cool, John.
That's scary, really, John.
Yeah.
John was sitting in the back of a car filming me. So
yes, it was terrifying. So anyway, I think it's only mountain right now, and gravel too. As long as your bike has the universal derailleur hanger standard, then it works on.
I wonder too if that improves the chain efficiency. Of being on the right size too.
But I'm wondering if it actually causes more drag. So they use the flat top chains like they do on the road now, but I would really be interested if somebody can test the drag behind this whole thing, because you have this narrow wide and then you have a much stronger derailleur clutch too. I don't know. I'm curious to see it, but that would be interesting to see, but maybe it does make it more efficient.
Anyways, Kevin's question, I think they were asking because I just realized maybe they want to know if they should get a steel or aluminum or carbon bike. And they wanted my perspective now that I've gone from one to the other. It doesn't matter. Carbon bikes feel like rocket ships. And if that's important to you and will make you feel good when you ride, get one. It's worth it. It's so fun. But you're not going to be significantly held back by a steel or aluminum frame. Do what makes sense for you. Yeah.
Christoph's question. During Milan San Remo, I heard that Mathieu van der Poel and Wout van Aert have FTPs above 450 watts, and this gave me some questions. So I want to be clear that in this case, Christoph heard that their FTPs were above this. This is not us saying this. I don't know what their FTPs are. It's all conjecture, hearsay, and us guessing. So this caused Christoph to ask some questions. Number one, is that common for the best road racers? If not, what is common, and how is this different for women? Number two, is that sort of FTP only achievable by legends of the sport? Number three, my mind says the best way to do this would be to just do threshold work, extend time and zone at FTP until it starts to feel easy, then repeat the process at higher power. Is it best to do this or to do what Mathieu van der Poel and Wout van Aert have done, which is explosive training for cyclocross, which once again, Christoph is noting that. So there's quite a few assumptions baked into this that we should cover. We can probably all have different points on this. I want to cover the women's side really quick. I just did I remembered this, so I wanted to make sure that I got the facts straight. And then Nate, I kind of want to go into your thoughts on this, and then Chad and Ivy. But first of all, for context on women, even though she is just an absolute legend of the sport. So once again, perhaps this isn't representative of everybody, but just for her. But this is an assumption. This isn't any sort of data that anybody knows. But based on Annemiek van Vleuten's performances last year at the Tour de France, they assume that she was probably somewhere just above 5 watts per kilogram for her FTP, because she was performing climbs at far above that for different durations, which would put her roughly around 300 watts for her FTP. So more common, it seems to be assumed that it's between 4.5 to 5 watts per kilogram instead of north of 5 watts per kilogram for pro women at the top of the field. But once again, that's an assumption. But there's a bit of context. So then it's not just we're talking about these plus 400 watt FTPs and everybody feels just completely alienated by it all. Granted, there's FTPs all over the range. But Nate, what are your thoughts on this? How did they get to this, and the whole concept of training for that? And how we should do it. What are your thoughts?
Well, first, let's talk about their FTPs, because they're both relatively big riders. Especially Van Aert is even bigger. And there's a racer in Northern California with a 480 watt FTP, but he is Brendan Wirtz. He is 6'5", and I think when he was 200 pounds, which is 90 kilos, and then he dropped 10 pounds to 86 kilos. So at that power to weight ratio, he's at a 5.3 or 5.6 watt kg. And that's not enough to win the P12 hilly races with a 480 FTP in Northern California, which is pretty crazy. And then for these two guys, you could go either way. It's the chicken and the egg. It's were they successful because they did cyclocross, or were they successful in cyclocross because they have these huge engines? some people with dads who race pro, and that of course they would do any sport and probably be amazing. And Brandon too, he was a Junior Olympics rower, so he is a world-class athlete who happens to cycle. And I believe these two athletes are world-class athletes who do cyclocross and road racing. I'm sure there's many benefits to doing cyclocross with the handling and efficiency, and feeling calm and cool in all these situations. And I'm sure that the punchiness, I'm not sure how the punchiness really developed it. Like a lot of punchiness, or else I think we'd see track sprinters. It'd be like the way into it. Like, I'm going to be track sprinting and get really hard to. Ivy's like, I did that. But Ivy's actually an athlete who happened to be a track sprinter. I think that's what it's more like than she did some special track sprinting that allowed her to get to this level. Because we see athletes go through all different kinds. Very controversial, but Lance Armstrong was a triathlete. The least amount of like punchiness, right? And he did his own thing, and in a very with doping. But
sure,
that's what I think of this. And for them, the 450, Matthew Van Der Poel is like 75 kilos, 165,
Probably.
75 kilos, and that puts him at 6 watts per kilo. And that sounds correct. And Wout van Aert's heavier, right? He's like 180. So I would expect his
heavier.
178.
Yeah,
in the 170s, right? So I think I would expect him to have an even higher FTP inside of there. So that's, I don't know. It does not seem like the close to 7 watt per kg that we would see in the Lance Armstrong eras, or like 6.8, where they'd hold 6.8 for like 45 minutes up a climb at elevation in the middle of a tour. That's not happening.
It kind of like your point brings up this thing that I've wondered quite a few times. And Chad, I'd be curious on your thoughts on this too. So we have these bigger athletes, and first of all, Wout breaks everything, because I don't know how he's able to like even win mountain stages sometimes. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy. It's so impressive. But him aside, we see these bigger athletes like Nate was talking about, these bigger athletes that have a really good power to weight ratio. And their power to weight ratio just theoretically might match that of another rider. But when it's a smaller rider and climbing is involved, they do seem to do better. Even though it's the same power to weight ratio, it's like the smaller rider seems to do better. And I wonder how much of this has to deal with, as it goes steeper, I know that it isn't a linear relationship, but I wonder how much of it too just has to do with the energy cost. Like, if you have a 450 watt FTP, I don't care how much sugar you're dumping down your gut, like the opening where it's draining out is too big. It's like so big, you can't put energy in. Whereas maybe a rider that has the same power to weight ratio, but they have a 300 watt FTP, energy isn't being used as quickly by their bodies. And as a result, they don't have to be, they may have a bit of a longer runway to work on those sort of efforts when it's like long climbs or big days. But, it's all just conjecture. But a 450 watt FTP, just a raw FTP, I don't think is common for the pro peloton, right, Chad? I mean, it seems like it would be. That's not the case. Like Nate said, in terms of watt kg and the top performers, 6 watts per kilogram is, what you should expect, sure. Yeah. But 450 is high.
I take a peek when I can, when the data is afforded us, and where it comes from and how trustworthy it is a whole other conversation. But cycling, the website cyclinguptodate.com, you can plug in. That's usually the one that comes up that provides these statistics. And right now they put, and being the name is Cycling Up to Date, I'm guessing this is pretty current. They've got Wout at, I assume
good
so.
Branding at the very least. Yeah.
Wout van Aert's at 460 and Matthew Van Der Poel's at 454. So it does sound like, indeed, if these are accurate numbers, and it pencils, it makes sense considering the things they do, the size they are. I'd be willing to bet they are up there, but they are exceptional. And to Nate's point, these are world-class genetic specimens. I do think that we could steer them, they could steer themselves toward any endurance sport and be this exceptional. They wouldn't, Michael Jordan's a great basketball player, not a great baseball player or golfer, right? He just couldn't carry that over because those are very skills-oriented sports. But these are more about the engines and the fitness and the psychological dispositions and all these things that coalesce into these exceptionally talented athletes. And if they were to try any other endurance sport, be it rowing or cross-country skiing or whatever it is, they're going to be the top of the heap. And I mean the very top. They're just that good. So it's hard to draw any real inferences from athletes as superior as these. It's really just fun. You can just sit and speculate and have fun conversations around it. But what we can take from it that's useful to us, I'm not sure there's a heck of a lot of meat on that bone. I do like that. What's it, the third question? Questioning the best way to do this. And it kind of brings me to a point that I wanted to make where we see FTP and we think these guys can hold 460 watts for an hour? No way. Well, yeah, probably no way. That's probably not what's going on here, because even the Pip Ogonas and the big riders who can generate this sort of wattage can't do it for those durations unless they train specifically to do so. So Philippe Ogana can probably do whatever his is. Let's say it's 460. He's roughly the size of these guys, maybe a bit bigger. Let's say it's 460, and he probably can do it for an hour because he steered his training toward a world hour record. So he went after that particular thing. That's not what these guys are doing, but they may not have a full hour's worth of this sort of wattage, but they can certainly generate this sort of wattage for long durations again and again and again. And they do have that broader quiver of arrows. They can do so many other things. And again, to Nate's point, whether cyclocross brought that about and they excelled because of it, or they excelled in cyclocross, however it works, chicken or the egg, they have it, which is yet another layer of superiority that they bring to it, and the Pidcocks and athletes similar to them, that, again, we can only talk about it and just kind of fantasize. But what we can pull from it that's super useful to us, just not much.
Which is why we also shouldn't fixate on that FTP number, both in athletes like this and also in ourselves. That doesn't speak to the full scope of our fitness, the depth of our fitness and our abilities in any way, you know?
Okay. Completely my point.
Yeah. Christoph is asking, is it best to do this extended training or extended threshold efforts, or do what these guys have done and do explosive training for cross? And I think that there's a misunderstanding that those two training approaches are not mutually exclusive. Just because, and I don't want to speak in absolutes, that every pro athlete trains this way, but for the most part, every high level pro athlete does both, just because these two athletes are focusing on riding in an explosive and repeatable way, and doing that type of effort well, doesn't mean that their training isn't devoid or is devoid of longer sweet spot or threshold efforts by any means. All these athletes are doing both.
If you look at how Wout in particular, sorry, Nate, if you look at how Wout raced versus Mathieu this year, which best cyclocross season like ever, the races are just so cool. But Wout races, there's an assumption that cyclocross is always raced just stochastically. It's just on, off the whole time. And if you watch how Wout races, that is not how he races. Like, he's able to throw in these longer drags and hold the power high. As a result, you can't afford to go too high because you'll never be able to recover low enough. And so there's kind of that false assumption too, right, Ivy, that pros race cyclocross like me. When I go out and I race cyclocross and I sprint out of every turn because I don't carry enough momentum, they aren't doing that. They're able to race it a whole lot smoother. So
This is a speculation, but I bet they go through the classical periodization where they have so many hours to train, where they go like a base build, like we call it specialty, but they get more explosive as they get closer, because as we know, when you train those anaerobic and VO2 maxes, there's a time limit for where your return on your investment for how many hours you put in. Like, these guys aren't. I know this for sure. They didn't do 6 days a week of explosive repeatability, right? And I highly doubt. I think I've even looked at some of their. I should not speak out of turn, but I think they're not just doing zone 2 and then explosive stuff too. That doesn't get them there either. And you know what too? You intuitively know, people who use this and people who have ridden outside and then use TrainerRoad, that explosive and repeatability, those are your group rides every Saturday. Explosive repeatability. You do that for years. Then you come inside and you do some threshold intervals in sweet spot, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, I didn't know I could do this. And your FTP jumps up 30. And then you actually have, when you're explosive and repeated, your explosive is smaller. It has to be as smaller as a percent of FTP. It's easier. You can repeat more. And if these guys are in cyclocross with a 450 watt FTP, their explosions up these little hills aren't to drop other people, don't have to be as strong as other people. And that's a huge part. 450. Yeah, exactly. That's a huge part of like FTP that people don't talk about. Is my lowest was 189 and my highest was like 370. Think of the difference. Like,
Yes.
if I was doing 220 watts, it would have killed me at the 189, right? Even if I could repeat it all the time, I could repeat 220 all day. And then later, I think I did 220 at Leadville for 9 hours. That is an incredible difference. And that did not come from just doing like anaerobic work.
Since this is kind of the meat of the podcast here, I want to spend some more time talking about training it. And this whole concept of just like riding at threshold, extending the time and zone, and then refresh, like just do it at a higher level now that it's gotten easy in doing that. There's this assumption that tries to keep the aerobic and anaerobic engines entirely separate, clean, like sanitized from each other. And Chad, the inherent nature of riding at your threshold is the fact that there's interplay and there's contribution by both. And basically you're just passing a threshold at which it will start to become, there's an inflection point in terms of the contribution and which one is able to contribute the sort of work that you need to do. And that's probably misunderstood. And that's why you want to not just work at your threshold or just below threshold forever, but instead you want to have those higher efforts, right? Because then you're working on the systems that are also contributing to your ability to hold that threshold effort. Isn't that kind of the perspective behind that?
Yeah, it is. I don't really know where to take that question outside of what you just
say yes
on me there. Yeah. I mean, that's all accurate. Yeah.
This is why you'd want to do VO2 max work occasionally, why you'd want to do harder threshold intervals that instead of 15 or 20 minutes, they might be 8 minutes. They might be something a bit shorter. And this is why even anaerobic work and that sort of stuff that's high up, it does end up actually it could have an effect on raising threshold, particularly if it's a fresh stimulus to you and it's something that you haven't worked on or it's something that you can still absorb. So it's, even though it seems really logical to just ride FTP and do that more, and then if you do that and you ride at threshold forever, you will get good at riding at that specific power number to a certain point. Then you'll see a point of diminishing returns and even potentially fatigue, especially because riding threshold is quite hard. Yeah. But
and the fact of the matter is
quite refreshing.
We can train or we can affect different energy systems by training other energy systems. And the fact that that overlap exists means no one should have to suffer the same types of workouts all the time. To go back to Philip Ogana pursuing world hour record, I promise you he didn't just do threshold work the whole time. If for no other reason, then that would just make an increasingly stale rider, someone who has to throw a leg over the bike and do that thing at the end of a training block that was mind-numbing and demoralizing. And it's only going to stay interesting for so long. And if it's not motivating, no one's going to work that hard in pursuit of anything. You need that variety. And it just so happens that our physiology lends and supports variety. So if we can get it a number of ways, why wouldn't we pursue a number of different, why wouldn't we go a number of different directions to achieve similar ends?
You can see this too in TrainerRoad in your progression levels. When you do a workout, like a VO2 max workout or a threshold workout, you can see the progression levels below it are impacted as well. Just because you are doing a threshold workout and you increase your levels in this area, doesn't mean you're not also getting faster in sweet spot and tempo. Like those, like Chad is saying, you're digging a deep well in the other areas of your fitness by doing these workouts. They're not, and like John is saying, they're not like different high intensity and low intensity. Right. They're all connected.
Nate, you can tell me that we can cut this part out of the podcast if you want to, but we're testing things. We test things here at TrainerRoad, and we mentioned that we are working on, we've mentioned this for a long time. We've been calling it Workout Levels V2. I don't know if it's kind of like the working name. It's probably just going to feel like Adaptive Training 2.0 because it's going to be so great, like a big change. But I've been testing that recently, and just as a really cool experience to that, I did, I'm actually responding to my training finally. Like, I don't know, my sleep still sucks right now, but for some reason, like it's, my body's just responding to it. So
it's given in. That's a joke.
It stopped throwing a fit. Yeah. And something cool is I did over-under workout the other day, but I turned it up a bit, right? I did it a little harder. And this was outside, me riding outside instead of riding inside, but doing my workout on my Garmin head unit, sent right over. And when I did that, it was really cool because I spent more time in VO2 max than threshold than was expected and everything else. But I got to see this cascading effect of how that sort of thing impacted my threshold and sweet spot and other levels in addition to that. And it's so cool. Like it blows your brain. It's a fantastic way to train, and you feel like you're getting credit for all the workouts. It's really cool. But threshold training in particular, and raising your threshold, going back to it, to sum up what Chad and Ivy just said, it isn't just you riding at threshold forever. It's the best way to do it is to work the energy systems that are contributing to that sort of effort, right? And you can do that in a number of different ways, and it keeps it really fun and engaging.
For those who don't know, so workout levels V2, we'll just keep using the code name for now. So today we score workouts based on like the primary energy level in that system. So a threshold, endurance, and that's how we created that workout. And that doesn't work very well for we're scoring rides with athletes who ride outside. And you want to get credit for what you rode outside inside the system. So what we're developing is a way to get a whole, to get points in endurance, tempo, sweet spot, threshold, VO2 max, and anaerobic as you ride. And then they all relate to each other too. So what it is, it's kind of a benchmark of where your fitness is. And we tell you then, if you're fresh, what you could probably do, which is like an achievable workout doing the same thing, and then prescribe to you an appropriate step that you can increase where you just do that a little overload, right? So you get a little super compensation. You don't want to do too much, and you don't want to stay at the same level all the whole time. And by doing this, we can respond to your training faster. We can, what we do is we develop and understand your fitness profile. And a really cool thing about this, we already do this today, but a lot of people, if you ever hear someone say TrainerRoad is just based on FTP, that's not right. Because with progression levels, the ability for us to change what your level is, even at threshold, but in endurance and VO2 max, there's a lot of flexibility in there because the level 1s and 2s VO2 maxes are about 110% of your VO2 max. And at the top, they're going to be, 120s for 3-4 minutes, like really long. And you're probably going to need a new AFTP detection after that. And so it's a really cool system to be able to understand your fitness, unlock you from just FTP, score your outside rides, and get faster. Yeah. I was so close. I said we were gonna like beta test it. We were so close, and then we found an issue. And this is that like 90-10, and it's cascading. And we, like we said, we do a lot of data testing. So what we do is we run these numbers through our whole history, not whole history, but millions of rides, and we see we predict what people would have done, and we want to. We have metrics to hit or improve based on the current system. And we had everything good. And then we found some metrics that weren't as good. So we had to adjust it. Now it feels like we're really close again, but I didn't say that because I don't know for sure until it's actually, out in beta. And then there'll be a long beta period too, where we'll let athletes in and it'll be you'll see one of the two systems, you'll be able to switch back and forth. But it's super exciting. Like it's going to be, the vision for TrainerRoad is that we will be the place where you do your training. You plan your training. You can train on TrainerRoad, and we have updates a little ways out for that too. And then you could go to other platforms. You could ride outside. You could do your workout outside. You could do your workout inside. You could do a free ride. You could do a race, whatever you wanted. But we would be that hub that would then tell you where you could train anywhere you want.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty great. Putting in context what you were talking about earlier, Nate, when you talked about like you'll get scored and you'll see like the potential of what you could do with your progression levels, but you might not be prescribed that potential all the time. The reason that would be important is, let's say you go do a crit and you just absolutely blow your brains out, and with the effort, it's super hard and you're completely exhausted. You don't want to make every workout just like drag you to your knees or you're getting dropped at the end of something like that. That's not the intent, right, of productive training. You want to strategically strain things, not blow yourself up. So, well,
there's two parts to that. There's the we call it like a hero effort. I don't know if that's going to be the working, not the production name, but Leadville, you do 9 hours of endurance. You're like, whoa, your endurance now is a 45. Like we don't want that, right? And then your next thing,
every ride should be 9 hours from now.
9 hours and 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's
not what you want. That's not what you want at all. And you want to know that you did this huge score and that's really fun, but that's not going to impact, those ones should not impact your training. The other one is that even though, you can't be progressive all the time in training, you can't always increase by, 0.5 or something like that. It needs to change it up. If you could do that, you would be beating Wout van Aert in a couple of years.
You'd be defying all physiology, first of all. And
exactly. So it's a thing in the system adjusts. And when it starts to get a little bit harder, we back it off, and we want to, and there's rest weeks and stuff where you kind of, some athletes who are at, I think in Brandon, our world champion COO, 5.3 watts per kilo. In a whole season, he might get 5 watts, right? 10 watts, because he is close to his genetic potential, or at least close to his potential with twins and a full-time job. And so I just want to have that little nuance part put in the podcast.
For sure.
So you can publish this, John.
Cool. Thanks, Nate. I'm glad. Ivy?
You're identifying an important a mentality we should address, though, when you're talking about wanting to have your workouts increased by 0.5 each time, and not understanding why you're not always being moved forward in difficulty. And I think the root of Christoph's question is kind of like a get rich quick. How do I raise my FTP? How do I get to this level? And a lot of athletes are worried about that in their training, in TrainerRoad and otherwise. Why aren't I moving forward all the time? That's a misunderstanding. Not everything should be so much more difficult that you're breaking yourself at all times when you're training. And there's no get there quick scheme. If you do that, you'll just plateau and crash, run yourself into the ground. There's no get high FTP fast scheme that I know of that.
Yeah, that I know one.
You do?
EPO and steroids.
Yeah.
Change your parents.
Well, getting faster, honestly, like if you're to use like a symphony or like a parable for this one or a comparison, like just having every instrument play as loud as it can for as long as it can isn't going to make anything sound good, and it isn't going to achieve the outcome, right? But it's when they all do their perfect part and it's all balanced and it's in harmony and everything works together, that's when the best result happens. And it's the same thing with training. It's way more nuanced than that. There's a temptation to always simplify it. There's also a temptation to think that harder is always better, and if I'm not moving up, I'm moving back, and that's the worst. But your body needs to adapt. It goes through these cycles where we load it and then we deload it to allow that to happen. It's all good. There's actually, this is leading to one other point that I want to cover on this, because I'm sure that somebody listening to this, Ivy, that's thinking of the get rich quick or get fast quick sort of thing is probably, I get this sometimes. Nate, I don't know if you get this on your messages too, but I got a message even this morning from somebody that's saying, hey, like I've been answering all the surveys on my workouts with TrainerRoad as easy because I want to make sure that it's making me as fast as possible. They're like, for the past 3 weeks, I haven't been able to complete a single threshold workout, but I'm still marking them. I'm still trying to mark them as easy. And I'm like, you're missing the point. Number one, don't try to get fast quick sort of a thing. You need to respect the process of training. Like, that is what it is. Respect your body and its limits as well within that. But the way to answer those surveys is just to answer how it felt. It's really that simple. There is no objective thing. Like we have the objective part because our system can analyze your what you did, and that's the objective part. And we ask the questions on the survey for the subjective part. It's purely for you to tell us how it felt. And when that happens, and when you do that accurately, that's how adaptive training starts to get a better fix, an even better fix on your abilities. Just with the objective data, it still can actually figure out quite a lot about you, but without the subjective piece, you're missing something so important. So with those surveys, remember, again, there is no objective. This should be this should be that. It's just how it felt. It's that easy.
With the surveys, it's just honesty. Specifically on the subjective side, it's a garbage in, garbage out system. If you effectively lie to your coach isn't going to be able to effectively prescribe further workouts and programming. So you just got to be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with adaptive training. Be honest with your coach.
Yeah, well said.
Before, this is a broader part, and we're working towards more and more where the athlete doesn't have to be accountable for anything at all. Maybe eating, sleeping, actually getting on the bike. But I remember before adaptive training, we had some reviews of some athletes doing high volume plan and saying how, this bugs me. TrainerRoad burned me out after this many, weeks. TrainerRoad destroyed me. And I go look at their career, and they tried high volume for 3 weeks and they failed like 12 workouts in a row. Like just everyone, they could not do it. And they just kept going and going and going. Please, if you're adaptive training will handle that to an extent. But if you are on so much volume where you are failing workout after workout, email support. We will help you. We will talk to you. Go in the forum. They will help you. Message me directly, please. Like it is, I kind of use this a lot, but if any of us did Matthew Vanderpool's training, we would be like,
His training's terrible. It sucks.
It burns you out. It's horrible. These people. I think this guy I'm thinking of was doing like 2 rides per week, and then he goes up to 6. He kind of like quadrupled his volume all at once, and then it's attack videos of us really do well, and that's a little annoying, but just understand. Ask to look at their career if they got burnt out. See what their history is and what they started doing.
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of an interesting note because I think a lot of athletes are now trying to train like Keegan. I think Ivy, you and I have talked about this maybe this year. Like, Keegan's been so successful with like the Lifetime Grand Prix and everything last year that a lot of people are like, all right, Keegan's program, here we go. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do what he does. Looks like he does really big rides.
Problematic by posting about his rides.
It's funny. He's like, yeah, I'm transparent about my training because I want other people to try it because I think it'll blow them up. Like,
it works, right?
And I think it's going to work. I'm curious. I bet other people that maybe weren't training enough or hard enough, these pro athletes that have really good genetics, maybe they do need to do more. But I bet a lot of athletes need to follow that Saving Sarah Marshall great quote and do less. So let's go to Ben's question. Ben says, I enjoyed the deep dive into the effects of living at high elevation a few weeks ago. You approached a question I've asked before, but didn't quite get there. When folks who live up high travel down, how long does it take for them to lose their acclimatization? I still don't know which word is correct, acclimatization or acclimation.
Acclimatization is actual exposure, and altitude or acclimation is a substitute for it, simulation.
I still don't know if that helps, but I appreciate your efforts, Chad. Then Ben continues, and how long does it take to readjust when they return home? Asking for myself, as I live in Albuquerque at 6,000 feet in elevation. That's roughly 2,000 meters, just under. But this summer, I will visit my family in Puerto Rico at 0 feet for a week. And this will be about 10 days prior to competing in the Telluride 100, which is up at 9,000 feet, which I'm treating as an A event. Ben's like, really exploring the space at the elevation there over that time period, which is kind of interesting. So the question is, how long does it take for it to go away, Chad? In other words, like we've talked about for elevation camps in particular, and if you want to check out, we have great videos on that. Go to our YouTube channel. I did like a scientific deep dive on research in terms of how to do an elevation camp, a high elevation camp, and there's a lot of great information on that. We'll put a link in that below, but go to our YouTube channel and check it out. But Chad, this one's specifically asking, like, how quickly can you expect to lose your acclimatization that you've achieved over X amount of time or just natural circumstances of living at high elevation?
Yeah, and Jonathan, I teed off of your note there, so go ahead and read your note because that set me up for everything I looked into, and it actually panned out really nicely.
Cool. In the research that I was doing for this video, the one thing that I remembered, at least this part, I remembered that 120 days is roughly the lifespan of a red blood cell. So in my mind, I was like, does that have something to play with it? Like I'm going toward like the root of things, because with elevation training, and the whole point of this is if you're spending time at elevation, your body creates more red blood cells. And then as it creates more red blood cells, that increases the oxygen carrying capacity of your blood. And then that in turn could improve performance. Your mileage may vary on that though. That's a very important thing. And we cover that in the video. So check it out and everything that you need to do for that. But that's where my head went, Chad, is I thought, I wonder if just the lifespan of a red blood cell has any implication on how quickly you would lose those red blood cells by being at low elevation.
Yeah, and cut to the chase, I think you're right. And what I looked at kind of steered me or supported that hypothesis too. So primarily, Ben, altitude training results in the increases that Jonathan just mentioned, one of which primarily is the red blood cell content. Or the what's often referred to as packed cell volume, but either way, more red blood cells. And in doing so, we elevate our hematocrit, as long as other things don't change. It increases our natural production of EPO, which furthers that red blood cell count. It increases our hemoglobin, our myoglobin, so the carriers for oxygen, et cetera. But the primary aim is to increase red blood cell volume. And at some point, these adaptations plateau, of course, just like we're talking about with sweet spot. You can't just do more sweet spot and just... At some point, adaptation plateaus. And interestingly, a paper from over a decade ago from Zubieta and Calleja called, or actually it's Zubieta, Calleja, same name, altitude adaptation through hematocrit change. And they provide an actual plateau calculation where you can multiply altitude in kilometers times 11.4 days to kind of decide or get some idea of when your adaptation will plateau. I found that pretty interesting and maybe, kind of useful, at least in the sense if you want a quick calculation to say, well, I'm going this high, I'm starting here, how long is it roughly going to take me? But back to the question at hand, if we look at the time course of increases in red blood cell volume and really altitude adaptation, we can try to infer the time course of red blood cell volume decreases and effectively, altitude deadaptation, making the short answer that the benefits of adaptation are probably going to last about as long as your newly acquired red blood cells live. So that's the short of it, and that makes the question, which Jonathan kind of answered already, what's the lifespan of a red blood cell? And across several resources, it looks to be somewhere between 3 and 4 months, but that also veered as low as 2 to 3 months. So let's say 2 to 4 months, and that range is based on a few potential factors, leading to actually aligning with, and there have been subsequent studies, but go back to 2012, Robert S. Franco penned a paper titled Measurement of Red Blood Cell Lifespan and Aging. And he put the average at 115 days with a range, and it's a pretty wide one, from 70 to 140 days across individuals. And then within the same individual, he notes that this value varies by roughly 15%. Meaning that in your case, Ben, let's say your average red blood cell lifespan was 100 days, then you could see them last anywhere from 85 to 115 days, just as an example. So I do think this is likely where our answer lies. How long do the red blood cells you gain from altitude adaptation survive upon your return to low or at least insufficiently high altitude? And this assumes that you do everything right too, because you can accelerate this deterioration by neglecting iron intake, for instance, not matching your nutrition relative to your training, as well as you could, in very much the same in the same way, you could retard the effects of prolonged altitude exposure by denying yourself those same things, not getting your nutrition right, not getting your hydration right, neglecting your iron stores, obviously.
It's like
so, yeah, it is. So, and what I found with really where I ended up is a lot of this is speculative because there doesn't appear to be much or really any that I came across deep research on this particular matter. And it led me to wonder if this is because this answer is unchallenged, and that's highly unlikely. More likely is this line of research has yet to be pursued, or maybe it simply hasn't reached publication yet due to high levels of subjectivity. First off, age, health, exercise habits, dietary habits, and perhaps because as one paper put it, in Frontiers in Physiology, we still have an incomplete understanding of the molecular details of red cell clearance. So, if the experts haven't even figured that out, I don't know how we're supposed to move past that. And that particular paper was a review from 2021. So fairly recent, and it looked back at some of the most recent literature. And so again, I think the short answer is about as long as your newly acquired red blood cells last.
So in this case, Ben probably doesn't have to worry about that 10-day trip down to low elevation and coming back.
No.
Chances are you won't be losing those red blood cells. To add weight to the individual variability that people have seen, that you pointed out, Chad, in a lot of research papers, if you look at the results of elevation training, they have to do it with large sample sizes because you have a wild variation in terms of how people respond to this sort of thing. And like Chad said, it's much more dependent. It's like codependent on a lot of different things that are happening instead of just you being up high and then you going down low, and it just works itself out. It's pretty complicated. In fact, I remember in one study in particular that I referenced in the video that I'm talking about how to use altitude training to get faster and if it works or not. It was interesting because there was one of the studies that showed that for 2 people, it made them faster. For 2 people, it made them slower. And for 2 people, and they did, in the structure of the study, they had them go up to elevation, go back down, and then go up to elevation again and go back down. And in both of those situations, 2 of the people within that actually responded differently to the subsequent elevation camp that they did to the first one. So in other words, they repeated the same process, yet they still behaved differently or reacted differently to it. And this kind of points to why elevation training in particular is something like going up high intentionally is something that carries a fair amount of risk for it. And that's why we've seen athletes, and it seems like the people in Mathieu van der Poel's corner, for example, noting and perhaps not blaming is the right word, but adding a lot of weight to the rumor that yes, that elevation camp that he did prior to the Tour de France could very well have impacted and caused the poor performance that he had at the tour. So it's just a tricky thing. It's trickier than we think. But in this case, at least, it kind of seems like the safest bet to think about is the fact that your red blood cells are going to stick around for longer than you might fear, right, Chad? So in one regard, this is kind of like the only safe part of it.
Yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. How long did it take you to adapt? It's going to take you probably about that amount of time to de-adapt.
I don't know about you guys, but I'd be more worried about international travel 10 days prior to, and potentially vacationing for 10 days before trying to perform well. You know, I'd be more worried about that than my red blood cells and how long my altitude adaptation is sticking around, you know?
There's also a different layer to this. And Nate, you've mentioned this before with elevation. It's like, it's perception. Perception plays into this quite a lot. Like when you go down to sea level and then you come back up to elevation, I think, Nate, you've mentioned the fact that it makes you, like, you feel like it takes a while to get back to like a good level of performance. Like going down to sea level and then coming back up actually kind of causes like a detrimental effect for you. And just looking at this, if you're living at 6,000 feet, you go down to sea level for a while, then you go back up to 10,000 feet. I would already start working on preparing yourself so then you don't get in a spot where you start to feel like, oh my gosh, like this is really high and I'm feeling the effects of elevation. Managing perception in those situations is extremely important as well. So, because you don't want to find yourself knocked back from it. Okay, this is gonna be a shorter podcast episode. We're gonna end this one because this week, and I have to actually, after this podcast episode, I have to start packing and everything else because I'm heading off to Oceanside for my first. An Xterra is a triathlon, yes, but this is like my first. It's a half Ironman, and it feels like my first triathlon. I feel like I haven't done anything like this before. Can we take a moment to talk about it? A lot of people, cyclists, have told me, they said, if you talk about your triathlon one more time, I'm going to stop listening to the podcast because they're like, you know, they don't want to see a brother fall to the ranks. Yeah, you're able to. But a lot of people have been asking about details about this and everything else. So rather than just me monologuing, do you have any questions for me going into me straying away from being a cyclist? And
Oceanside is a half Ironman. And it's a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and then a half marathon, 13.1 mile run at the end. I don't know that in kilometers. And the course is you swim kind of in the ocean, and then you go
very much in the ocean.
Well, it's in a little bit. It's in a little bit of a bay, and then you get open. So there's, at least when I did it, it was
it's backwards now. You swim through the break to start and straight out. And last year with the storm, they had like over 6 foot waves. I think it was 6 to 8s. It was super intense to watch that on TV and then to like sign up for this race. I don't know why I did that. And then after you swim through the break, then you go around like a jetty and then you're in the harbor. And I think maybe it was backwards before, Nate, from that.
I don't remember, and then the bike is mostly flat with one large climb. And I remember coming back into town being a big headwind, but I think if you're very fast, maybe there wasn't a headwind, or I'm just confusing that with Kona. And the run, when I did it, was really fun. It was like a 2-lap run or 2 mile lap run. It was in town, lined with people, super energy. And there was this really sharp hill that was annoying that you have to go up so many times. But it was like, I don't know, like 30 feet or something, and 3 stories. But that's what the course looks like.
It's and by the
weather,
pier, right? That short, steep thing. That's what I've heard.
The weather, cool. What's weather going to be like, John?
Supposed to be like when I start swimming, it's going to be in the mid to high 40s in the morning. So cold. Ooh. Yeah. And then I think the high for the day is like 60 degrees or 59 degrees. So it'll be a cold day.
That is perfect. No, that's perfect for a triathlon. Can I just walk us through this? I'm going to try to walk us through this in 10 minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
John, what's your target? What do you think you can swim in open water? Have you even swam in open water other than once when you had that issue?
I've done 5, but all
Plenty.
1 in a really murky lake, Boca, that's close to us, 4 in Lake Tahoe. One of those was a race. I have swam, every time I've swam in Tahoe except for the race, it was extremely choppy and windy because the only time I could get up with work was in the late afternoons. And I know that you're thinking it's a lake, it's probably not going to get big waves, but Tahoe actually gets like swells and big. And I was swimming in like 30 mile an hour winds. And I actually did that. I was glad I did that because it was terrifying, but at least it made it so that when I was swimming in chill water, it wasn't as bad. So I'm kind of familiar with it, but extremely, extremely fixating on those waves and swimming through those waves. And I'm worried about that.
Too, because of all the people around you. And I just have a feeling John likes to line up with all the D1 swimmers. You get swam over because this is going to be there's going to be for Xterra.
Yeah.
Xterra Lake Tahoe has some good athletes, but
this is a different
Oceanside
ball
will have
game, man.
whole different level. There's going to
Also,
be
if you
some
look at the
amazing
age grouper results, like I think I told you all a while back, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll be able to like, maybe top 20 in the age group. It's such a competitive field that would have been an amazing result. There's zero chance with how like poor my training has gone. There's zero chance that that's like possible. Like this is a really competitive field, to your point, Nate, really fast.
What can you hold 10 100s on, you think, in the pool, 100 yards?
I just did it the other day in a wetsuit in the pool, and I did it in 129, and then without a wetsuit, I did it in 131 or 132, I think.
I predict in open water it's going to be 145, just because you can't swim straight in open water unless you are amazing, and that's a hard thing. And then siding too slows you down. We're gonna have to do that in a pool. On the bike, John, what's your FTP right now, or what can you do repeated threshold intervals on your TT bike and TT position?
Probably 260 watts, maybe 250.
That's pretty good.
But I'm shooting low. I had dreams because thinking back to Cape Epic training and stuff, on my long days, I was holding like 250 to 60 watts, and I was doing that for 5 hours, and I was like, fine. And I was hoping that I would get somewhere close to that to be able to hold it for 2 hours. No chance, not even remotely close. So as of now, I'm going to be shooting for like 210 to 215 watts. Like is what I'm going to shoot for on the bike because I don't want to walk the run. Yeah,
don't do that. And then on the run, how fast are you running in training? And then do you have a target pace or something you're going to like because everyone knows this, so not everyone. For everyone, I don't know what I'm saying. When you finish the bike, that first half mile, you're like, oh damn, I can get my PR. It does not hurt. It feels amazing. You're there. And then reality sets in and it can be really bad. So what normally triathletes do is, you have a watch, and when you get out, that's that first time where you really have to pace yourself. It's extremely important because you don't want to go just like a time trial. It is a time trial. You don't want to go really hard, which John tends to do, and then back off as it goes closer to the finish.
So my natural tendency after a brick has been to go out at 6 minutes, and then it's a terrible choice because then, after a few minutes of that, my body starts to go, oh my gosh, this is really hard. My goal is to keep myself off the bike to go at 7 minutes and then see how that feels. So I've done recently 10-mile runs at 6:30 pace, and I feel like it's not anything that's cooks me for the rest of the day. It's hard, but it's not something where it completely broke me like an all-out effort. But I know for Xterra, I was thinking that I would be, and I had ran bricks off the bike, and I was like, yeah, I'll be able to do 6:30, no problem for this 10K. And no way, I couldn't do it. I was at 8 and struggling, and then I was able to drop it down to 7:15 by the end. So I'm optimistic that I could hold 7, but we'll see. It's going to be somewhere in between 7 to 8, I bet, in terms of my mile pace for the run. And I'm planning to walk the aid stations, each one, because I have my whole nutrition plan.
How do you carry your snacks?
So then that way it allows.
You got a fanny pack or?
Yeah, so I'm taking a precision fueling and hydration. I actually have a spreadsheet for this, and people ask me to share it, so I'll probably share it on the forum if you're listening to this and you want to check it out. But anyways, I'm taking a precision fueling and hydration 90-gram gel beforehand, before the swim. I'm taking that probably a half hour before, and then letting that get into my system. Doing the swim, probably going to drink 17 gallons of ocean water, and each gulp I figured out is roughly 9 grams of sodium. So
that can mess up your. Happens and messes up.
I'm worried
your whole
about
race.
it because if
it's not advised.
I've done a decent amount of surfing, and I've swallowed plenty of ocean water in that process, and in almost every I've puked from that because it makes your gut so upset. So I'm quite worried about that.
Well, there goes that 90 grams you ingested pre-swim.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I'm figuring put it down there and see if it'll stay in. And then after that on the bike, I have 2 aero bottles inside my triangle. I couldn't get with my saddle. I couldn't get a good bottle cage set up to put saddles behind me. So I got 2 500 milliliter aero bottles that are sitting inside my frame. Instead, they're made by Tax. They're quite aerodynamic and they match the frame profile really well. I'm hoping that works.
I have some bottles, holders.
Oh,
it's too late to do it. You don't want to do it the week before the race. You want to do some training inside. But I do have some if you want to try.
Torpedo bottle in between my arms that I can drink from. And I'm planning to take in on the bike. So at the end of the day, I'll have an average of like 90 grams an hour. And right now, with what my gut's been able to tolerate with training, that's about right. I know that with the run, on the bike, I'm taking in a bit more than that, but on the run, I'm taking in a bit less. In my training, I just haven't been able to take in as much on the run. My gut isn't trained for that quite yet.
What about caffeine? How are you going to manage caffeine on this race?
Run gum. I'm not taking it in with my gels, and I have it all planned out. I'm taking in run gum, not before the swim. My heart rate's going to be pegged, and I do not want to have anything that causes that to go higher. And I'm going to be panicked too. I assume.
You're not going to be panicked, John. You're going to do wonderful. You're going to be calm and relaxed and enjoy it.
There we go. I like it. So in T1, grabbing a quick little bit of the run gum, putting it in, and I only chew it for like 15 minutes. And after that, reportedly, you get all the benefit from it, and you spit it out after that, and you get all the caffeine you need. So I'm doing it then.
Station in the trash. So I can just imagine somebody else getting stuck on their foot. That would be awful.
Totally. Yeah, it'd be terrible. And then I'm doing, after that, I think it's on the bike, I'm doing at the hour mark, I'm taking in run gum, and then I'm taking in 2 pieces of run gum on there. So it'll be a total of like 200 milligrams, and that's a ton for me. So I'm doing it in little 50 milligram chunks though with the gum, and it absorbs a lot slower. And then for sodium, I'm taking in the Precision Fueling and Hydration little blister pack things that they have. It's way easier for me to figure that out. And I also have sodium in all my bottles. I'll be taking in roughly 600, I think, and 80 grams of sodium an hour.
You're such a triathlete now.
Dude, this is me at all bike
Do you have a
races.
timer? Do you have a timer on your Garmin to remind you to eat?
No, I don't need that. I've transcended that. I don't need reminders. So, I'm good there. 680 grams of sodium. Or milligrams of sodium, not grams. And then I'm taking in roughly 90 grams. I'm taking in roughly 90 grams of carbs an hour. And then I'm taking in 600 milliliters of fluid per hour.
Okay, we got enough. I just want to know how much gum you're going to have. 200 milligrams. Okay.
That's it.
John's got the details out.
New helmet that I haven't tested on race day.
Amazing. Great idea. What can happen is... with TT helmets, for those who don't know, they have different, they come down different size on your forehead. And you see some people like tilt them back. Don't do that, because if you land on your face, you're going to smash your pretty face up. It's not worth the little bit of extra aero bits to do that. John?
Can you share the main reason why I upgraded the helmet really quick?
Well, let me finish this thing and then I'll let you know.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So what happens is on a new helmet, it could be lower. In your head position, you might have to angle it up higher than you normally would. And just a couple, like an inch higher for 56 miles. And you cramp up and you have to get out of aero position to like stretch. And that just really slows you down, and it's demoralizing. It's hard to put out power.
Yeah.
So not advisable to do a new aero helmet on race day. Yes, John.
So my POC, the way that I had to, which first of all, the POC was always extremely thin, and that was really concerning to me. There's not much foam. It's not very protective, and I did not like that. Also, vision with the POC was really tough. It was like low over my brow. Even when I was lifting it up where it felt unsafe, I couldn't see very well out of the front of it. In my UCI position, it didn't matter because I was looking down like at the ground in this really weird tucked in position. But in my tribe position, it's very different, and I'm looking ahead. So this new one, the Giro Arrowhead is what I got. It's like triple the thickness of foam, which I find much more comforting. It sits much better on my head, and I can see better just in just short little rides on it. So we'll see. I don't know. Also, a new tri-suit on race day. I couldn't get it beforehand. I tried. That's going to be an interesting one.
Love it.
So,
The Giro Arrowhead, though, is always tested really fast. I don't know if there's a better one, but it's one of the top helmets usually.
Yeah, and it's pretty safe. It's a safe pick for like Arrow.
Do we have results predictions?
Final question. Let's do the results, and I have a final question. We can end the podcast on that. Yeah. Do y'all want to? Do you even know how fast triathlons are?
No, I think I have a placement prediction though, which I think John will be top 15 in his age group.
Whoa, I won't. I bet. At a normal sorry, great point, Chad. At a normal 70.3 perhaps, but at Oceanside it's like creme de la creme. It's fast.
Well, that's just how much I think of you, John.
Thank you, Ivy. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Chad?
A prediction for his finish time?
Finish time or placement?
I think his top 20 sounds lofty based on the amount of training he's been able to do and the quality of the training. I don't doubt that you've been trying really hard, but it doesn't sound like things are exactly falling your way. So Yeah, I think scale back expectations. The whole under promise, over deliver approach is maybe your best approach here. Mm-hmm. But I do hear a lot of. You don't sound overly confident, that's for sure. So I think you should maybe give yourself a little bit of credit because you are a naturally gifted athlete and you have trained consistently. So I bet you'll surprise yourself.
I appreciate the vote of confidence.
Usually how people do is they do a sprint, then Olympic, then a half. They work their way up. Not John. He wants to jump in. And usually too, the first half that people do, it's a big jump and they usually make so many mistakes and kind of fall apart on something. And their time just balloons out. It goes really far. I think Oceanside, when I did it, like I had my bolt, like the bolt wasn't tight. No, my seat bolt went down. It wasn't tight enough. That was it. And I had to stop. And I think it was like 6 hours. And then my next triathlon, I was 4:59. Like that's how bad the difference was. Yeah, my next half.
Yeah.
Because John though has done so much long training, like Cape Epic, all these massive Leadville, all these incredibly long rides, and done very well in those. As long as he survives the swim, please do that.
I can't drown. I remember that. I can't drown. It's impossible.
4:36. That's what I'm going to call it. 4:36.
4:36.
That gets him last year like 15.
My that was a good day and I didn't die time would be 4:48. That was a fantastic time would be low 4:30s or high 4:20s.
Dude, if I can do a 4:59 like 30, I was like 30 seconds under 5 hours. You can do more than a 4:48. And this is when I was training with Chad and I think my FTP was 460 and I was 190. Like you can do it. I have all the faith in the world in you. Final question, John. What length socks are you going to wear?
Oh yeah. You know it. Mid-calf socks.
When?
When I get out of the swim, like a decent human being, Nate, I will put on socks before I put on my bike shoes. So, yeah, I have them all set up. And then I am going to bring an extra pair of socks because last time, one thing I realized is that having wet socks, they weren't wet from the swim. They were wet from me pouring bottles over myself in the heat. But having those on the run is a bad combo. So, and I'll be using Alpha Flies for that, for the run. So there it is. Looking forward to it. If you're at Oceanside, let me know. I'm going to be swimming in the mornings at 7 a.m. on Thursday and Friday beforehand, down by like the race start. So if you want to go get in a swim with me and hopefully help me not drown and not get eaten by sharks, I would love that. But above all, if you're listening to this podcast and want to get faster, you need to head to TrainerRoad.com and sign up. You should go subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this podcast with your friends. It's like... I wish you could buy that because then you'd probably feel like it's really valuable and you're giving us something. It's more valuable than just dropping us like $10 or something like that. Please. It's so valuable. If you share the podcast with your friends and rate it, hugely helpful. Submit your questions at trainerroad.com/podcast. And if I'm alive after the swim, I will see you all next week.
Good luck, John.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.